there are those who exist quietly in the world of images and notifications, who move through life without leaving a trace in the digital landscape. They do not post selfies, curated experiences, or highlights of their lives. To the casual observer, it may seem unusual, even enigmatic. Yet this choice is rarely about fear, shyness, or avoidance. It is about presence, authenticity, and the quiet protection of the self. In a society where validation is measured in likes, comments, and shares, those who abstain from posting photos are quietly free. They have recognized that attention is a currency with a subtle cost, the cost of comparison, expectation, and distraction. Every image posted is a negotiation between identity and perception, a silent wager that the world will approve, admire, or envy. Those who refuse this wager reclaim their energy, their attention, and, above all, their inner peace. Psychologically, people who avoid sharing photos are deeply aware of the performative nature of social media. They see the curated lives, the exaggerated smiles, the carefully constructed moments, and they recognize how easily it erodes authenticity. They understand that a photograph can be a mask, a story rewritten for consumption rather than truth. By abstaining, they refuse to fragment their identity into pieces meant to be consumed by others. They preserve the coherence of self, choosing internal validation over fleeting external affirmation. This restraint often comes from a profound understanding of boundaries of attention, emotion, and identity. Posting a photo is an act of exposure, and exposure carries vulnerability. The world can respond with admiration, but also with judgment, criticism, or indifference. To withhold is not to fear judgment, but to honor the self quietly, preserving dignity, focus, and the intimacy of one's own life. There is also a layer of introspection in this choice. Those who do not post photos spend their attention inward rather than outward. They notice the subtleties of experience, the way light falls across a room, the way a conversation lingers in memory, the quiet rhythm of a day uncurated and uninterrupted. Life is lived rather than broadcasted. Moments are savored internally, without the need for external validation or performance. Yet this choice can carry a sense of isolation in a world obsessed with visibility. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers may question the absence of participation, the refusal to show oneself. But those who abstain navigate this tension with quiet resilience. They understand that connection does not require exhibition, and that intimacy cannot be measured by the number of likes or comments received. There is also a subtle bravery in abstention. To resist the pressure to perform publicly is an act of quiet defiance, a refusal to let society dictate the terms of self-worth. It is the courage to be unseen, to value substance over spectacle, and to live in alignment with one's own priorities rather than social expectation. In this, they cultivate an inner life that is rich, deliberate, and deeply anchored. Ultimately, those who do not post photos teach a profound lesson. Their presence is deeper than visibility. Authenticity outweighs approval, and the self need not be fragmented to exist meaningfully. Their lives unfold quietly, unseen, yet full, a testament to the strength of solitude, the wisdom of restraint, and the beauty of living for oneself rather than for the gaze of others. In a world obsessed with projection, they remain grounded. They remind us that the most meaningful life is not lived for applause, but for depth, not for exhibition, but for understanding, not for fleeting attention, but for quiet mastery of the self. To abstain is not absence, it is presence, deliberate, intentional, and profoundly alive. The quiet power of unseen lives. Those who choose not to share their lives visually inhabit a subtle power that many overlook. By remaining unseen, they preserve the continuity of their identity, avoiding the fragmentation that comes with constant external scrutiny. Every post, every image, every share is a negotiation between the self and the gaze of others, an invisible transaction in which energy, attention, and authenticity are spent. By abstaining, they reclaim that energy, redirecting it toward inner growth, contemplation, and meaningful connection that does not depend on display. Psychologically, this choice reflects a profound understanding of human attention and desire. They know that what is broadcast publicly is rarely consumed thoughtfully, and that social media thrives on fleeting reactions rather than lasting engagement. To post is to invite judgment, comparison, and distraction. To refrain is to create space for depth, reflection, and emotional equilibrium. They understand that the richness of life is not measured by visibility, but by the quiet cultivation of experience and the fidelity to one's own values. There is also a subtle courage in this restraint. In a culture where participation is expected and absence is questioned, choosing not to post requires confidence, self-possession, and an intimate knowledge of one's priorities. They understand that self-worth cannot be outsourced to validation, and that integrity is maintained by resisting pressure to perform. In this quiet defiance, they embody a strength that is rarely seen but deeply felt, a life lived intentionally rather than in response to external expectation. Furthermore, abstaining from sharing photos allows them to fully inhabit their own moments without interruption. A sunset, a walk in the rain, a laugh with a friend. These experiences are not filtered, curated, or transformed for consumption. They are lived fully, deeply, and privately. Life is experienced as it unfolds, not as it is projected. This intimacy with the present nurtures resilience, mindfulness, and a rare clarity of self, qualities that cannot be achieved when one's focus is constantly divided by performance and perception. Ultimately, those who do not post their photos remind us of a profound truth. Visibility does not equate to significance, and attention is not a measure of worth. They teach that life's deepest moments, the ones that shape character, thought, and soul, often exist outside the gaze of the world. To live unseen is not to be hidden. It is to live deliberately, to cultivate self-possession, and to honor the profound value of a life measured by authenticity rather than display. The freedom in choosing to remain unseen. There is a rare and subtle freedom in choosing not to post one's image online, a freedom that most people cannot grasp because it asks for a form of self-possession that the world rarely rewards. Those who abstain from sharing their photos have quietly recognized the cost of visibility, the subtle erosion of autonomy, the constant weighing of perception, and the unconscious shaping of self to meet the imagined expectations of others. By refusing to participate in this digital theater, they protect the integrity of their inner world. Every moment remains unclaimed by the gaze of strangers. Every expression remains private, untested, and unjudged. This privacy is not loneliness, it is sovereignty. Psychologically, this choice reflects an awareness of the delicate balance between attention and selfhood. The act of posting, no matter how casual, invites appraisal, comparison, and often unconscious submission to the judgments of others. Those who refrain understand that approval is fleeting and external validation is an unreliable measure of worth. By keeping themselves unseen, they cultivate a life anchored not in likes or shares, but in thought, reflection, and experience that is entirely their own. There is also a quiet discipline in this way of life. To resist the pull of social expectation is to exercise emotional intelligence, self-regulation, and an intimate understanding of one's priorities. They understand that every act of performance in the digital sphere subtly shifts the self, creating echoes of anxiety, doubt, or disconnection. Choosing to remain unseen requires courage because it goes against the tide of contemporary life, against the instinct to seek attention, approval, or social reward. Yet, in this very choice lies a profound mastery, the ability to live without dependence on external affirmation, to move through life guided by internal compass alone. The depth of living beyond the gaze. Those who choose not to post their photos have discovered a subtle yet profound truth. Life lived beyond the gaze of others allows for depth that the visible world can rarely accommodate. Every photograph, every post, every shared image invites attention, and with attention comes influence. The shaping of the self by the expectations, judgments, and interpretations of others. By resisting this, they protect their interior world from intrusion, preserving the complexity, vulnerability, and authenticity of their being. Their lives are not fragmented by likes, comments, or fleeting digital admiration. They are whole, continuous, and intimately known to themselves alone. Psychologically, this is an act of self-mastery. They understand that identity is fragile, easily molded by external perception, and that the curated images presented online can slowly replace the unobserved, true self. By remaining unseen, they cultivate an unshakable relationship with their own mind, body, and emotions. They learn to validate themselves internally rather than relying on the transitory and often shallow affirmations of the crowd. There is also a subtle courage in this invisibility. To withhold from participation is to confront social expectation, to endure subtle judgment, and to resist the pervasive pressure to perform publicly. They embrace solitude not as loneliness, but as a sanctuary, a space in which the self can grow undisturbed, uninterrupted, and free. In this quiet, they build resilience, clarity, and a deep sense of peace that the constant visibility demanded by social media rarely allows. If this reflection resonated, if it stirred something deep within you, subscribe and join us as we continue exploring the hidden layers of human nature, the quiet strength of solitude, and the power of living authentically. Here, we honor the unseen, the unspoken, and the profound freedom that comes from simply being.